Kagushia, Honorable John Kagushia, who's a Speaker for the Nyeri County Assembly. Good morning, sir, and thank you for joining us bright and early.
Good morning, Mike. How are you doing in Nairobi?
Very well, thank you. All right, John, let's get straight into it. And of course, the revenue sharing bill is one that has been very contentious to a point where we saw senators, for one reason or the other, not appearing, being arrested. And let's start just first of all by your thoughts on what's happening and whether you feel that there is a threat on devolution.
Yes, indeed. I think we have had this problem every starting of the financial year. If you look back, you will see that every July, August, September, we have had very serious challenges with devolved funds. Last year, if you can recall, we had a push and pull between the National Assembly and the Senate, and this has to do with the amount of money that is going to be allocated to the devolved units. And of course, the CAF and also the COG were also interested parties in this, as they were also pushing for more funds. But then you remember that this went on until the first quarter was over. And so nothing much really happened. Now, if you look at again this year, we have the same push and pull again between the senators. And this again leaves the devolved units starved of funds from July all the way now to August. And of course, you can remember that as we were completing the year, we still had the challenge of COVID. And so counties have been starved of resources for rather too long now. It's about 3 months. And of course, there is no consensus in sight. And so we are expecting this might prolong.
All right.
You remember that counties are the ones which are at the moment handling a lot of the issues that have to do with health. And so it is not a good thing for the devolved units. It's a very serious threat to the devolved units.
And you're sitting in the county, Nyeri County to be specific. What do you feel, if we cut to the chase, what do you feel is the real reason we have this standoff? Because by now we'd imagine, even with the amount of mediation that has been done with the president, with the former prime minister, with the likes of, all leaders literally pushing towards one side, what do you feel is the real reason we have this standoff?
I think there has been rather too much assumption coming from the executive, especially because and of course, a lot of our counties in this region are pushing for the population as a major or the main component in resource distribution. And of course, I know the executive seems to be in agreement with the Mount Kenya region and our counties in this region. And of course, the Rift Valley counties and the Nyanza counties. But then there has been a lot of assumptions because we did not see proper lobbying being done in good time. And we did not also see an executive which is approaching the senators with a view of convincing them and lobbying them to accepting to pass this formula. And if you remember, this particular bill was supposed to have been presented to the Senate well ahead of end of the financial year. In fact, like 60 days before the end of financial year. So that by the time we complete the financial year, then we are through with that process. But now you see this bill, the Division of Revenue bill, which is now contentious, was presented after the financial year had ended. And that means any disagreement, any push and pull, it's into the financial year, the current financial year that we are in. And you see, this would have been avoided because if we were now having this challenge in May and June, or, in May and June, then it means that by the time we were starting the financial year, we would probably be expecting to get some consensus. So I can say we have had delay in the presentation of Division of Revenue bill. And of course, we also have had assumption from the executive. Instead of engaging the senators with the view of persuading them and convincing them to passing this bill, we are now seeing coercion, and we have also seen other unconventional means being used. And I think that is really not something that we can buy in as Kenyans, because that would then mean that we are now retrogressing as a country. I would have expected that we have more of civil persuasion, negotiation and talks between the executive and the senators.
Oh.
And of course, even other stakeholders who are involved, like the COG, like County Assemblies Forum, and Treasury, and any other body that is involved, like CRA. We would have expected to see more of that, other than what we are now seeing happening in the Senate.
All right.
I also dare say, Mike, that the inability of the Senate to pass this bill 9 times in a row, and this has taken like now 2 months, is not reflecting very well in the Senate and its leadership, and would expect to see better than this. You know, it may look like it is just a push and pull between senators, but I can tell you, as we talk, there are families which are going without food, especially the staff who serve in the devolved units.
Right.
And this is not auguring very well.
It's not going well. Well, let's get to the shilling and cents, Mr. Kagushia. And one would imagine the formula may not be, we may have seen already it's not either or. Whether we use numbers in terms of population or mileage, it looks like we need to get a middle ground. Are you telling me that it is that difficult for the Senate to sit down and agree? And of course, we know that there is a mediation committee. We'll come to that in just a bit. But even so far, for at the expense of Senate, at the expense of the counties suffering, are you telling me that there is no way we can find a formula that at least helps us to have some middle ground and an agreement?
I would imagine if there was a way that should have been done by now. But what I see is there was set, the senators were set in their mind. And of course, sometimes you can understand, because like any senator who comes from the regions which are going to benefit, except a few of them who have now defied that formula, most of the senators who come from such regions are also under pressure from their own regions to ensure that they support and back this formula. And of course, this is because it's going to guarantee more funds for those areas. And the senators who come from the areas which are likely to lose are also under a lot of pressure from their constituents to shoot down that formula. And we have also seen the governors, especially who come from the areas which are going to lose, are also lobbying some of the senators who are vocal in the Senate to ensure that they shoot down this formula. So we have handstands, we have people who have taken their positions. And so that is why I want to laud the wisdoms of Senate yesterday by coming up with this mediation committee. Ordinarily, the mediation committee is enshrined in the Constitution to help when there is a problem between the Senate and the National Assembly, but it's also good that it is even done now at an intra-Senate arrangement, which we hope is going to help us solve this impasse. And definitely we must then have some compromises that are going to take place between senators and of course between other important and key stakeholders in this process, so that then we can agree on a formula that is going to help our country not to now start sliding into more divisive politics and economic politics, because this is distribution of resources, of course, which you don't expect that it is going to be so silent and so smooth. Yeah, but again, there's an argument and there's a school of thought that if more funds were allocated and availed to the Senate to distribute to the counties, then would probably have averted the problem of lose-win situation. We've had a situation where every county has been sustained or maintained with the resources they were getting before, and then the counties that are pushing for the use of population, for example, and are likely to gain a little bit more, then do not be seen to be gaining from the counties that are losing. You know, that would be a good compromise. But that again would also require the Treasury, the executive, the president to allow more resources to be allocated to the devolution.
Okay.
And of course, you know, this was the bone of contention last year. That's why 3 months went by and there was no resources allocated to the counties, because there was a push and pull about 16 billion. And this time around, we are saying that between 8 billion to 15 billion, it could help us to have kind of a a situation where we do not have counties which are losing.
All right. And we are now joined by Senator Isaac Mwaura, who is a nominated senator. Thank you for joining us, Senator. And maybe just as we continue with the discussion, to get your feeling, votes are to be won on the floor of the House through persuasion and not intimidation. But it seems like Senate has changed this script for one reason or the other, and we see intimidation. What do you have to say about that, Senator Mwaura? All right, I think we seem to be having a bit of a challenge there with the network. Maybe now we have him on. And Senator Mwaura, yeah, go on.
Yes. Yeah, sorry, I was muted, sorry. The whole issue is we cannot accept that kind of intimidation. We cannot accept a situation where fellow senators, on the basis of their political opinion or voting pattern, that they are denied access to the Senate. That, for me, I think is totally unacceptable, because if today, Mike, we allow that to happen, tomorrow it will be me. I mean, tomorrow it will be another person. And you know, we do not seem to understand is that politics is episodic. Today you are with these people, tomorrow you are with the other people. So you cannot say that you have permanent friends or enemies. Now, right now, we are discussing about the division of revenue. We are discussing about monies to counties. Tomorrow, it will be another issue.
All right, we do apologize there.
The
We
other
seem to be
day
having a bit of a challenge with the
Murkomen
network.
was railing Malala about how he was... Hello? Hello, Mike?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the other day, Malala was being accused by Murkomen, around the issue of, impeachment of Waiguru. So this time around, they were together in this issue. And that is a circus that you find in politics, like a wheel. Sometimes you're up, sometimes you're down. So we will not accept to be intimidated. And I am very proud yesterday that the Senate stood up to those kind of intimidations. We couldn't proceed with the vote. And especially when there were letters clearly saying how Senator Lagat and Senator Malala, clearly say that they wanted to vote in a certain manner. And that was it. And that was not for me, actually. I mean, it was not on my side. But the speaker had to make a ruling.
All right. While we try and sort that out, we seem to be having a network problem there. Maybe just a quick reminder of that Twitter poll question that we have: will the Senate Mediation Committee resolve the revenue sharing standoff? Do you feel that the Senate Mediation Committee is going to resolve the revenue sharing standoff? I'll read some of the comments coming through. Wilson Dongo Njenga says they can't, simply because Senate is a driven up. They have no power, only salaries. We have Jacob Matlala, who says, I don't think so. Senate committee chosen to mediate is going to give bias stand, because I see senators who are eased to bend by executive mandarins. We have Kaige, who says, no, we first need to close this country for some repair. Goodness graciousness me. We have Peter Githinji, who has a very big no. It has an N and countless number of zeros there saying no. We have Kinyanjui Mungai, who says, we cannot get a resolution out of this because the executive is interfering with the Senate. Rather unfortunate. And keep your comments coming. That question again is, will the Senate Mediation Committee resolve the revenue sharing standoff, is the question that we're asking. And as we wait to sort that out, let me go back to John Kagushia and maybe ask the same question. Mr. Kagushia, do you see smoke coming out, the white smoke, as we call it, coming out of this committee that has been put together to resolve and to mediate? Mr. Kagushia, a question to you. Do you see white smoke coming from this mediation committee that was put together?
Yeah, I should expect that, because really there's just so much time we can take on this particular matter.
Right.
We now have, we mustn't really come to the end of this acrimony between the senators. And I want to really ask Treasury and the Executive and our dear President that if it is possible, just allocate a little bit more funds to devolution. And if you look at the kind of money that has been allocated to the mainstream ministries, you realize that the country has money, and these monies can actually be used to help to really solve this particular problem that is there. Because if you look at the arguments that are being brought from both sides, the people who do not want to lose and the ones that are on the gaining end, you realize that they all have some truth in them, and they are all justified to make their cases as they are doing. And so by the time we are getting to next week, we would expect that, particularly because the senators who have been put in this mediation committee are the senators who have been seen to be very vocal and very key in this debate. Yeah. We'd expect that then they're going to take their time and to push and pull out of the formal setup of Senate. And I think this ought to have happened a little bit earlier, because I have seen that working very well in these political negotiations. That you close people in a room and let them agree on a formula that can be agreeable and that can be sold to all the stakeholders. And of course, do much more negotiations behind the scenes, other than hoping and expecting that in such a controversial
it'll just happen.
Area, you can come and agree on it in a formal Senate sitting. You know, it becomes extremely difficult if you can't agree in the back room to expect that you'll come and agree in the open Senate. What they have now done is something which is laudable, and I want to believe and expect that they will have to bring this thing to a close the next 7 days.
All right. Let me bring in Senator Mwaura and ask the same question. And do you see light at the end of the tunnel, Senator Mwaura? And I'll use the words of Martin Luther King: injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. What we have seen happening to Senate is very unfortunate. We've seen coercion, and even at the point where they will agree, whenever that will be, it seems like there's an upper hand. What do you see as, the solution for this moving forward?
Yeah, thank you very much. It's good I tell you how exactly this happened. When we were not able now on our side, the side that was supporting the proceedings of the House, I was quick to note that then we will still end up with a deadlock, because when we were voting to adjourn, it was a tie of 29-29. And then now that had to proceed, because then the motion was lost. Now, when we came to the issue of adjourning, increasing the time, so that we will be able to. And by the way, there's an echo that is interfering with my. Yeah.
Apologies for that, but we can hear you clearly on our end. We can hear you.
Okay. Yeah. So the issue is basically. We won, because we had now 28 versus 31. But then my opinion then at that point was we form a committee so that we are able now to get both sides. And we talked with Murkomen, we talked with the Kindiki, Moses Wetangula, Wako, and that now became the consensus, that was moved by Senator Orengo. And I hope now people will stop being from this side or that side, because what we have three proposals. We have the committee's proposal, which has been amended through the Linturi amendment. We have the Petronila Ware's proposal, which I seconded. And then we have the Wamatangi one. And then there's Orengo. Now, the Wamatangi one summarizes all of the others together. But as you know, sometimes whoever, the message is as good as the messenger. So we expect now, with the leadership of Moses Wetangula, that we will look at all of those formulae and agree on a compromise, because we are fighting over a carcass, I must say so. If you look at the budget of the Ministry of Health, there are 97 billion shillings, and you've just seen COVID-19 millionaires. You even had, or rather there are stories about a single sourcing of 7 billion PPE by a lady who is yet to properly even graduate from school. And yet, if we were to allocate an extra 13 billion, we would be able to resolve this matter. Now, that is what under the bridge, because within this year, the Division of Revenue Act has already been, put into law. But then, going forward, because also this year there is no change based on the already projected budget, next year we anticipate and we expect, even when there is poor performance of revenue, that, Mike, we will be able to have a higher increase towards the equitable share. And the projection of the National Treasury is said that by the year 2023 will be at 332 billion. But let me indulge a little bit. These monies for infrastructure in schools, about 7.5 billion, can still be given through the equitable share. Mm-hmm. If you look at the conditional grants, various conditional grants, instead of them being conditional, they can also be increased to equitable share. Allocations around the ministries of health and agriculture need to be at the counties, and so is water. You see, because you can't explain to me, Mike, mm-hmm. how you have a national executive with a budget of 2.7 trillion against 316 billion, and the country can be quarreling because of about 13-20 billion. I beg to differ, and especially when we are saying that BBI is going to increase allocation to 35%, you see, so that then you start moving towards that direction. Mm-hmm. Some of the parameters within the shareable formula as per Article 217 of the Constitution require that you give more money based on what you call fiscal prudence, which is how counties, expend, their monies in a manner that gives value to Kenyans, value mm-hmm. for money, as per the provisions of Article 227 of the Constitution. And also further, the issue of fiscal effort, where you collect your own source revenue, for example, Kiambu County at some point had collected up to 3 billion, and the KRA was in charge, only for it to regress when there was a new system called Zizi Pay, which could actually be hacked. In fact, Tigoni Hospital at some point hacked that system, and they stole 9 million, the staff. So some of these seepages and leakages at county level are also need to be focused on, because by the end of the day, we do not also want over-reliance of counties at the center. And so, therefore, we are anticipating, therefore, that with such kind of parameters, that by next financial year, it is actually possible to give counties 348 billion. It's actually possible. It's possible. All right. John Kagushia, your thoughts on solutions as we get to the tail end of this interview. What do you see as a formula that works? You're in one of those counties that are populous, that have numbers, Nyeri County. So what do you see as the way forward?
I think Senator Mora has put it clearly that the most amicable and less hassle-full solution would actually be to allocate more resources to the counties. And I've seen the counties that are likely to be losing have had no issue with the counties that are more populous having more resources allocated to them, so long as they don't lose what they have. And so that would be the best solution possible. And the person who can provide this solution would actually be His Excellency the President, and also instructing the Treasury. And of course, the President will be drawing this advice from the Treasury and from other bodies. You remember last year, CRA had come up with a formula that had allocated a little bit more money than what eventually was allocated to the devolved units. And of course, the senators and the governors and the MCAs actually went to court, to the Supreme Court, and the court did make a ruling that CRA's contribution or their proposed formula is just but a proposal, and that they do not have any legislative capacity then to enact it. And of course, that left this now to between the National Assembly and the Senate. So we want to hope that now, based on this particular disagreement that we have today based on the revenue sharing, then we can adopt the formula that had already been given, or rather the amount that had already been allocated by CRA formula last year. So that amount that had been allocated, I think about 335 billion, would then be sufficient to handle the emerging issues this year based on the new third generation formula that has been proposed. Now, this would help us to get a more faster and quicker solution to this problem. Of course, if that were not possible, then it would mean that the senators, as they have now retreated, are going to then agree on some compromises. So that first they agree on timing. When are we going to enact, or when are we going to implement this particular formula that they're going to come up with? And how much money then can be allocated based on population and based on other parameters? It is important to remember that there are so many other parameters, but the parameter which has been bringing a lot of disagreements really has been the parameter on population and landmass. And with that, I want to believe that then we would be having a way forward. But as we talk about that, I also want to urge Treasury to release some funds, more funds to the counties. I know 29 billion was already released last month, which really is not is a drop in the ocean when you look at the way counties run. The law provides that if there is a disagreement between the county assembly and the county executive, then 50% of the funds that are allocated to that county are released to the executive for use until such a time that an amicable solution is found. Why don't we, apply this law that exists to now this new area, which we have not, this uncharted water, where now we can be able to use the same formula where we say release 50% of the funds to the counties, let them continue operating, let them help people who have, let them help with the healthcare and other areas which they have a mandate in. Mm-hmm. And as you do that, and as you look for a solution in the Senate, we can have counties running. Because like now, as we talk, the counties are grinding into a halt, and it is not a very good thing. Remember, Absolutely. We have been pushing on the issue of pending bills to be given or to be paid to people who supplied government at different levels. And this was supposed to spur the economy, to help the funds to go to the grassroots in all the counties. Now, that program has been stopped for the last 2-3 months now. And you can imagine what that is doing to the economy. What that is doing to the counties.
Honorable Kagushia, I'll have to interrupt you. I'll have to interrupt you, sir. We need to take a short break.
We have a lot of challenges with our people in counties and in our country at large.
All right.